My name is Steve Young. I live over in Naples, Florida, and I'm one of the original founders of the whole Florida Youth Rugby League. And one of your questions that you asked me is, where did I get my start? And that was a lovely experience. It changed my life, frankly. And that was, I played for 3 men's teams. And the first one was in Springfield, Massachusetts for the Springfield Rifles, they're called now. It's one of the oldest teams in the United States. I had no idea because I was nothing but a punky young kid that went to college. And a good friend of mine was dating a guy that graduated. And my perspective when I went to school at 17 in college, I thought somebody 21 was a man. Then I got to college and I realized, whoa, did I have that all wrong? And so pretty funny because I saw what knuckleheads 21-year-olds in college were. But this gentleman was dating Josephine, a good friend of mine. They eventually got married, Alan Chaika, and he's passed away since then. And he was already a graduate. So he's out of college, working in a profession. And he knew I was supposed to be playing football, and I had gotten hurt, and I healed. And they gave me a little bit of money, but not enough. They didn't take it away, so I didn't have to play. And he goes, why don't you play rugby? I go, what's that? I had no clue. This is like in 1971 or 2. And so he goes, I'm picking you up. He picked me up, brought me to a rugby practice. I never put shoulder pads on or a helmet on again. I didn't fall in love with it. I loved it. And you got to know, I'm playing for a men's team now. So I had to earn my stripes. So I'm a kid. And remember, my perception of a 21-year-old was a man. Well, now these are real men. These are and typical rugby guys, 20s, 30s, 40s, engineers, doctors, lawyers, garbage truck drivers, unemployed, construction guys. And they never treated me like a kid. And I earned the right to be their scrum half for like 4 or 5 years, which it was so exciting for me. I loved it. And then I relocated to New Jersey and found the Union County team and had to start all over again because you got to earn your stripes there too. And became their scrum half for about 4 years also. And I was traveling literally an hour and a half just to get to practice twice a week. And then we had games because that's how far I was, like the furthest one away. And that was becoming cumbersome, as you could imagine. And then I bumped into a bunch of guys that played rugby in the past and from Morris County. So we got together and formed and started the Morris County Lions. And I played for that for 2 years before I wound up almost pretty much retiring because of my busy business life. And I was in politics at the time too, running a nonprofit and a business. So got real busy. But that was my start in rugby from the get-go. And I loved it.
And did your kids start playing rugby in New Jersey?
That's an interesting story. Yes, real quickly. What happened is my kids got to do some very serious traveling throughout the world, both of them. And this one particular time, Ryan, he was, what year was he in? He was like a freshman in high school. Oh, no, it wasn't even freshman. He was 8th grade. And he got to go to New Zealand and Australia. So he goes to New Zealand and he had a homestay there. And what they did in the homestay, it was an ambassador trip kind of thing where they take the kids and teach them the culture and bring them to the governments and they get to assimilate. And it was a great experience. And he had a weekend at somebody's house in New Zealand and they chose to take him to a rugby game. And that's all he could talk about when he came back was, Dad, I got to see the haka. And I go, I call him Bub. He's Ryan. I go, Ryan, you don't know what you don't know. They had no idea I played rugby because out of all those years, the next 15 years, I never said it. I didn't play it. I was immersed in their lives. They were football, baseball, soccer, basketball. And when he came home, I went and got some scrapbooks and I opened it up and he goes, no way. And he saw that I was playing. And then I just picked up the phone and I called Big Toe John Sutherland from Morris County, who helps found the team himself. The Morris County Lions, and getting him on the phone. I hadn't spoken to him almost 20 years. And then he tells me, we just started a high school team. I said, no way. So guess what? At 48 years old, I said, Ryan, get in the car. I'm trucking him 45 minutes to the practices twice a week. That's when Ryan got his taste in his freshman year. And I went back and played with the old boys for 2 years. That was a lot of fun. So I got reintroduced back in with the Morris County Lions, and he got introduced to my son Shane up there in New Jersey at the time. they didn't let kids that were younger than in the grade school areas, 6th, 7th, and 8th grades, they could play touch, or not touch, flag.
Flag.
Yeah, so they didn't play tackle, only in high school, freshmen on up. So Shane went in and played that, but it was great schooling, by the way, great training for how to run lines and learn offense, defense. That's their introduction. And then we kept going, and I decided to move to Florida. This is in 2004. I flew back there, and we didn't like where we lived. We loved it. We had a beautiful home on a nice piece of property. And I told them, pack up, the caveman's moving to Florida. Yeah. And they were all upset. And right away, I made 3 commitments to my boys. One of which was, I said, we'll start a rugby team. They go, Dad, we already looked it up. There is no rugby in Florida. I said, you don't pay attention. I said, we'll start one. And so that was one commitment. The second one was that we're going from mountainous areas. We love to ski and hike and mountain bike. So we're going to a peninsula. I said, I have no idea what God did with the water on all sides. So we're going to get scuba diving certified, and we'll go do that. And then lastly, I'm taking you to real mountains now so we can ski and powder up to your chest. No way, Dad. There's no such thing. I go, you're not in the Poconos. Those are little moguls. Those aren't mountains. So we fulfilled the dream. And when I moved down to Florida, I had to keep my word. And that was to form a rugby team. And there was no league here. And so at that time, in 2004, I found the Hammerheads, Naples Hammerheads.
Let me just
drove there.
Interrupt you for a second, because now that you told me this story, had your son not had going to that New Zealand trip, maybe Naples had not existed, because he would have not seen rugby and maybe never brought it up. So it's amazing how things work out, right? And
yes,
this is a very common story of people starting teams because of their kids. It's pretty much the same story. So and it's funny how this happened to you, right? Because he had not traveled to New Zealand, he would have not seen the haka and not even brought it up. So the story is actually, that is the story of how Naples started, actually, with your son's trip to New Zealand. So
that's exactly true.
Credit to him, okay? Also to you,
yeah.
But let's give him that credit, okay? So now you came to Naples and you're desperate trying to see what's going on with rugby.
Yes. So I drove up to the Hammerheads practice. I walk out on the field, and who's standing there? But 2 guys you probably know. One guy is Kenny Simmons, who's like one of the older
legend
Rugbys of Florida.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, he is. Yep, and he's a riot. And then Larry Fox as well. And I played against Larry Fox from Monmouth, New Jersey. He was in Monmouth. I was in Union at the time.
Okay.
Couldn't believe it. And he's on the sidelines. I had no idea he was down here. I go, you got to be kidding me. So I roughed their feathers a little bit and say, what are you guys doing? Why aren't you doing anything with the youth? What are you doing? And it turns out, this is how ironic this is, Charlie. It's unbelievable. Kenny turns to me and goes, all right, listen, the state's having their AGM meeting tomorrow. And I'm going. I go, really? What's an AGM? I had no idea what he's talking about. Their annual general meeting.
And this is like 2004, right? Sometime in 2004, probably September or something like that.
Something like, they were practicing, so they were ready to play their season. So sure enough, I meet Kenny and Rosalind, and we drove all the way up to Orlando to that meeting. And that was their AGM, and I stood up and presented to them and asked them, why aren't you guys doing anything in youth rugby? What's going on here? What is wrong with all of you? There's loads of kids here. Let's go. And they went, oh, okay. Mark Etu was the chairman or the president of the AGM at the time. And they all thought it was a good idea and said, okay, well, we can help support you. I didn't know what that meant. And then after they said, okay, let's do it, then I drove home. Got in touch with USA Rugby, made arrangements to pay for and have the guys come in from USA Rugby to do a coaching clinic because we all had to get certified. And then when I reached out at the AGM, I did find out now that there were some ad hoc little team, when I say little teams, sandlot teams that weren't organized. They didn't play regularly. They just played in the backyards once in a while.
Now, let me ask you, before you did that coaching course, had you already started the team or?
No.
Okay.
I was doing it simultaneously almost.
I got this picture from the.
Oh, I saw that. That's the original guys right there from that class that we just talked about.
Yeah.
all those guys. That was great.
Pretty much everybody's in that picture, I guess.
Yep,
This
the original crew.
this I understand was in 2005, in January 2005.
Yes, and we started playing right that month. We started playing each other, and it turns out we had 6 teams that we organized that we had, and some guys were already playing.
Yeah, but
which
wait,
was
hold
great.
on, because you haven't created the Naples Bears yet. Let's continue
Well, yeah,
your story, right?
yeah, well, that was interesting as well because now that we knew we were going to go do this, I had to get permission, and it's so funny. I guess I can only tell you what he told me. The athletic director from Palmetto Ridge High School was a brand new school. It's one of the reasons that motivated me to move because I've been in the money business for years, and I'm a cheap guy. So let me describe that so you don't think the wrong thing. Cheap means frugal. I want the best deal for my buck. Um, and my wife used to bust my chops all the time and goes, "What are you doing for the kids' college education?" And I said, "I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm putting money away." But if you shop around, there's certain states that have great advantages for college if you qualify based upon their criteria.
Yeah.
Florida's one of them. And so I did a study in a computer 3 different times. This is pretty interesting. And I said, "Show me the place with the most amount of money and the fastest growth." And each time, the first 2 cities were identical. The third one was different. And the first 2 were Las Vegas and then Naples, Florida. And I had never been to Naples, Florida. I didn't even know existed. Because if you know this, by habit, all us humans are like ants. All the Northeast travels down 95 and settles over there on the East Coast where you are, West Palm, all that, Boca, Fort Lauderdale, Miami. And it seems like Chicago, Minnesota, Michigan, they all come down 75 and settle on the West Coast, which I thought was interesting. And I was one of them. I used to vacation down on the East Coast, Boca, that area. Never came over to the West Coast here. So all of a sudden I said, Naples, Florida. So I bought an airline ticket. And my wife goes, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going down to Naples, Florida. I'm going for 5 days, 7 days. I'll call you, let you know what's happening." So I did, came down to check it out. A buddy of mine at the time, I knew him for 28 years. He said, "My wife's from Fort Lauderdale. She wants to go back. Can I come with you?" I said, "All right, come on, but I'm going to be busy looking around." Flew down here, spent about a week. When I went back, I had bought 4 lots that my wife didn't know about. And I said, "Build these houses and build that one last because I'm going to use that for air mattresses when I come down here and check on my investments," because I was doing some investing. And sure enough, I did that, and it was the last house built in that neighborhood, in that development they were building. And lo and behold, a year later or 2, they started building a brand new high school, $58 million. It was Palmetto Ridge. So I took an interest now and called down to the AD. I got him on the phone, and he knew I was Steve Young. And look at the rings, the things, right? Yeah. That's a rugby ring, and that's a ring nice to give out to people in my financial firm. And this guy thought, for whatever reason, that I was Steve Young, the football player. Can you imagine? Steve Young, if you don't know it, was a quarterback in the NFL.
But
okay, yeah, he's pretty infamous. He's a TV broadcaster now. So long story made, he thought I was Steve Young, the quarterback, but I am Steve Young.
He got all excited. Oh man, I'm gonna.
Yeah, he got excited too because he told me, he goes, "I kept calling him because I wanted to know what the system was down here. Like, it's very different than the Northeast. The schedule of the sports. Or are we going to compete against football? How is the attitude down here?" Which was unbelievable. The coaches down here, football coaches, hate rugby when I first got down here. And they wanted to control those kids. And so when I got to see him, he was all pumped up. And I kept calling. He goes, "Wow, we don't get a lot of parents that call up here and want to get everything. So, yeah, you can come over." So my whole family, my wife and my 2 kids went over to meet him. He sees me. I'm still 1 foot bigger than a midget, and he still thinks I'm not Steve Young. And he's like 6 foot something. And I'm just a little guy. And then he realizes, oh, I'm not that Steve Young. So funny story. He's looking at my son, and he knows Ryan, the same kid that went to New Zealand, happened to be an outstanding all-star soccer player as well. So he goes, "We have a brand new football team. I want him. Will he kick?" I go, "You already have 2 kickers." He goes, I don't care. We need a third one. I really want a kicker. And I go, "Well, I'll make a deal. I'll get him to kick for your football team as long as you let me have that fields out there for practice, and I use your home field, and you're going to have now a club sport of rugby in your school, the first one in the state. How about that?" And he agreed. That was the birth of the right of getting in on the field and starting it at Palmetto Ridge.
So your plan always was to go to the school and start the team there, inside the
Yes, as
school.
a club. Yep.
And at that time, it seemed to be much easier because I don't think nowadays that would fly here. Nowadays, to get a rugby team started, you would have probably needed a teacher to sponsor the club, right?
That you exactly right. I always went to the kids and asked them, who is the best, most likable teacher that you guys love? Who is that? I want to meet him. And they did. And every time I got the name, I went to them and made them a deal. Listen, you're going to be a sponsor of a new club. All you got to do is give me a classroom twice a year. You don't even have to come to the games. You don't have to come to my meetings, but you just want to be the sponsor for the club. Will you do that for the kids? They never said no. And that's how I got in. And I kept doing that every year.
Were you doing this on your own, or you already had other people like helping you out to start the team?
No, I was doing it on my own. There was nobody else was doing anything.
So at some point you were able to like schedule your first practice.
Yes,
I guess.
I think I practiced on Tuesdays and Thursdays, if I remember correctly.
Do you remember like your first practice? All these kids like coming to something they were absolutely unaware of what it was, pretty much, other than you.
Yeah, well, I had team meetings first to orientate them, and that's another thing.
Okay.
I bumped into Claudio Ferrar. Claudio Ferrar was an Argentinian that was a chef over at the school teaching culinary. The guy was a riot, and the kids loved him. He shows up at my first meeting, and he's a big old boy, man. This boy was big. He was a chef. And he stood in the meeting. His son was in 8th grade, and he got his son to come out in 8th grade for our high school team. But he loved it so much, and he's passed away since, and he was a dear friend, a great guy. He gave me more trouble than the kids do, I think, because he had such a humor, and he was a rowdy guy. He was unbelievable. He was worse than the kids.
And he knew about rugby.
Yes. So he come out and helped me right away.
Okay.
So him and me, and that also, I used to do fundraisers with the kids, and I'd make them do charitable things all the time. So because he was a chef, we used to raise money and go buy like 30 turkeys for Thanksgiving time. He would make a meal that was fit for a king that we went and delivered to needy people. And he did all that through the school, which was great. I mean, we raised the money, got all the food. He cooked it, and we went and delivered it. But that guy was a champion. Claudio Ferrar, good guy.
And
No
so you started. How were those first practices? Because literally you had, I don't know, 20 guys maybe at a practice.
Yeah, well, in the beginning we probably had 8 at the first practice. Okay. Then we went like to 12. Then we got up to 20. So we kept growing. It was compounding. We were doing pretty good with recruiting, and I did a lot of videos on their TV to some good hitting drills. And we always said the ring's the thing. You guys aren't going to get a championship for football. What do you waste your time for? Come into rugby and get a ring. So I was promoting that. We were doing everything we could to create excitement and show them what fun it was. And I used to make shirts up and said, you probably heard of it, no helmets, no pads, just balls.
Yeah.
And the kids loved that. I had 2 big rugby balls hanging down. And the kids responded to it, and we started getting them and showing up. Now, it was ragtag for the first, couple of months. But after that, it was growing. And then we got right into our season when we started playing. I think we started maybe in February, for games that year in 2005. And our first game was against LPA. I'll never forget it, Pip True. Good old Pip.
Good old Pip. Before you go to that first game, so at this time you started finding out that there were other teams on the East Coast that were already formed, so you organized a league.
Yes.
And you took a little bit of initiative on this, right?
Yes, and they all showed up, and we told them they had to because it was USA Rugby rules at that coaching clinic. That's where I met Bill Shelley, Bill Martz, all them, Chris Ream, they all came. Ray Campion. So they showed up, and we went to that class and got certified, as first coaching level of the requirements for USA Rugby. And then we formed. I used to tell them, I'm going to be a benevolent dictator, for the first few years, because we didn't get a nonprofit. We just an ad hoc bunch of guys that made schedules, made it work. We had 6 teams. We played each other twice that year. And we all agreed that we're going to travel. that was a big discussion. It was something like some didn't want to travel. I go, how are you going to play if you don't travel? And you can't force. So you gotta reciprocate. And it worked out. It was pulling and tugging, and I became the benevolent dictator. And solicited, but great guys, man, the wonderful human beings that all cared about the kids, and they made the sport work because of that. And we got off onto it, and then that was our first game, as I mentioned, up at LPA, and we traveled all the way up. It was 4.5 hours to get there, but I only went with 12 kids. That was my first game, and I had no jerseys. Unbelievable. There was some guy named Frank from Argentina. And so, and if anybody ever ordered shorts, I ordered these shirts from him. He promised me, you're going to get them next week. It kept coming. I'm into the season. We still hadn't had jerseys. I finally called him up and I said, Frank, let me make it clear to you. I got ties in the Northeast, pretty good ones too, in Massachusetts and New Jersey. And I got them in Florida. And you ain't going to sell a jersey in the United States again if I don't get a pair of jerseys on my front door this Friday, because I'm not going to another game without the jerseys. So he sent me some, not the ones we ordered, because they're still making them. Guess what I get? It's a sidebar story here, because we're playing Taravella now. This was in March, and it was one of those freak days in March where it was like 95 degrees.
Wow.
I've got 16 players. I'm going over. Bill Martz and Donnie Stramanak and Jeff Oxenrider had an army. He had 44 kids there. We get out of the cars. We're walking over. They're all lined up on the sidelines. I got my 16 kids, and I open up the box of jerseys. You won't believe it. Heavy, like up in the Northeast, heavy black jerseys for 95-degree heat.
They were they were loaning them to you for the game.
Yeah. He sent it because I told him I would cut him off, and he would never have another business again if he doesn't get me jerseys to fill in the gap. And then I finally got my new ones. But that day, that's a funny story. They come walking over, the three of them, the three amigos, Bill Martz and Donnie and Jeff, and go to me, Coach, we got to play all of our kids. I go, you're going to play all your kids? They go, yeah. I go, I got 16 there, and it's 95 degrees. And you're going to play all those kids? And then I had one kid get sin bit for 10 minutes in that game. I go, you know what? If you guys really feel that way, have at it. I'm still going to kick your ass. No, it was so funny, goofing on them. And sure enough, they went over. And what a game that was. And we have a habit of nicknaming kids, and that's a great fun thing. It's coaching and building camaraderie. Well, one kid named Phil Cologne was playing in that game. And another kid that should be a professional athlete never went on with it, Steve Kinsland. He's the one that got sin bin for a while. But we're playing that game, and at the end of the game, by the way, we won.
Oh, you did?
Yes, and they put in their second string. They even put the third string in, but when they were getting beat, guess what they did? Sent back in that first string again. Boom. We still won, thank God. Okay, but at the end of the game, when I'm feeding them water, I had Phil Cologne, his nickname, and he became a coach. And he's doing teams, I think, up in West Virginia and Kentucky, somewhere around there in this country. And he's called Coach. I nicknamed him Pukey. He was puking his brains out from being so dehydrated. The kid played 100%. The kid, unbelievable. But Pukey was his name, and guess what they call him? Coach Pukey. It's on his bag and everything. He lives with that name forever.
So at the time you did like rolling subs, there were not any like rules. And as far as rosters, it was just play everybody.
Yeah, at that time, and we tried to respect it. Like, guess what? They were trying to do good by their kids, but I'm saying you're doing good by your kids, but you're killing mine. But that was the first year. That was pretty funny.
And let me ask you another question. At this first season, you probably had kids of all ages, right? Mixed up, because you had to be in high school. But that means you have a 4-year range. You had 18-year-olds and maybe 15s and even 14s playing.
Yes, I even cheated. Like I mentioned, the chef's son, Coach Claudio, his son was in 8th grade, so I cheated and I let him play, and he was good. He played with me for 5 years. All 4 years in high school, and plus when he was in 8th grade. So I probably shouldn't have done that, but we bent the rule.
Well, the thing is, at that time, if we didn't do that, it was really hard to get a team of a 2 age gap age.
Yeah.
It was
Yep.
just sort of impossible. Or you do it that way, or you just don't play. So later on, we got that sorted out. Any other? And that first year, you went on to become the first Florida champions. I understand, right?
Yes, we did. We were state champions 8 out of 10 years that I was serving, and that was the first year. And we lost that first game to LPA because I only went up with 12 people. And this is so funny. Pip was so kind. He gave us jerseys to wear, and I'm sure the parents were pumped up. There were beer jerseys with a beer name on them, and I got high school kids playing. And then he gave me 3 players, and my players are yelling at me, "Coach, we're better off without them. Take them off." They were yelling at me. It was so funny. But we were getting beat badly, but we came back. We almost won, but that was our first game we lost. The very first game that my son Shane played in as a freshman, he lost. And the very last game as a senior that he was leaving, he lost. And our record during all those time in the 10 years was 111 wins, 6 losses, and 2 ties.
That's
And it turns out that of the 6 losses, 2 of them were with my son Shane, sadly.
Those are like all black statistics, huh?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it was a fun run, man. It was great. And
Let's see that cup you
yeah,
have there. Let's see that cup for a minute that you have back there, because I'm sure you want to show it. Because that was the original cup, right?
Yes, I started the tradition to see that Florida Cup right there.
Yeah.
And then every year I was listing the winners to pass it on with the scores, the years, and then it got sloppy after I was when I was not involved anymore. So there's more of them. So and then every team would get this, and keep it for the year and then turn it back. But now you can see it was kind of loose there. It's falling apart, but I'm keeping this forever. That was great. So we're on this a lot, obviously. Your Florida High School Champion Cup. And I got a few more in the back.
Yeah, I can imagine. So let me ask you: can you name any players throughout, especially from the first years and throughout the existence of the program, that went later on to play at higher level?
Well, I've got 2 right off the bat that you might well know of that came out of the Naples Bears. One was Cam Dolan.
Yeah, of course.
My son Shane recruited Cam, and he played for us and went on, and you see what he did. Became one of the most capped Eagles in its history. I think he's the 3rd highest capped player or something like that.
He's up there,
he played
for sure.
Yeah, played 2 or 3 World Cups, which is great. And then I had Malachi Esdale, who's an Olympian. And he played wing for me. So I had those 2 that came on right out of Naples Bears Rugby and went on the national scene and did really well, and very proud of that. That was great.
And of course, you mentioned your son Shane. He went on to do some great things in Memphis, right? You want to tell us about that quickly?
He is doing tremendous things. He also played on the USA 18 team.
Okay.
That's another story, by the way, when we were playing Jupiter, because that was a fired-up competition. And Shane was over playing in England for the USA U18s, and we had a championship here against Jupiter. I'll come back to that story. But Shane did, when he graduated, he went for Teach for America. That's an organization that they take kids out of college, all walks of life. They look for the cream of the cream, and put these people through a boot camp of I think it's 16 weeks long or something like that. That normally people go to college to become teachers and have to matriculate through a 4-year program. These people do it in 12, 16 weeks or something like that. So it's grueling. And then they have to make a commitment that they'll teach for 2 years, and usually in an urban area or a rural area. And they had 3 choices. Well, Shane went through the program, got selected, and wound up going to Memphis, Tennessee. And when he was up there, he had time on his hands, and he found another guy named Devin O'Brien. They became really good friends, and they taught in different schools. And he wound up, they went outside, started throwing a rugby ball around. And then he got one principal to con the kids, because he went to charter schools, which was smart. Charter schools can't afford football. So the principal put out a note, "Hey, come to a football meeting." And all these kids showed up thinking they were going to play football. And they gave a meeting. It was about rugby. So you got to get him in one way or the other, right?
Yeah.
That was Dr. Hunter. And Shane, that's all he had to wrote. He's put 3,600 kids, and it's morphed into a dramatic movement in the country. And what he talks about, and if you know anything about Memphis, it's one of the most crime-ridden cities in the United States, by the way. And the poor kids in that city don't have a chance. They are born in poverty. And when you're born in poverty, he calls it from poverty to prosperity through the sport of rugby. And those kids don't have any money at all. So he did like what we had to do in the beginning. We took money out of our own pocket and paid for everything, uniforms, transportation, food. He did all that. And he started building and raising funds and stuff. And it just started mushrooming. And they had so much success with it. The school started saying, hey, we want to start a team. And he built this thing up now where these kids are nutritionally deficient. And Charlie, if you know anything about kids, when you're in school and you're hungry, you're not thinking. You're thinking about where can I get some food. And so I'll give you an example. He's got kids going to Ivy League schools. He had one young girl get admitted into Colgate. And that's way up there in the Northeast. And here's a girl that's from Memphis, Tennessee, a black girl from Memphis, Tennessee, going into Colgate. I think, is it Cornell or Colgate? Colgate. And that's an Ivy Leaguer. And these girls are all driving Porsches and stuff. Can you imagine that culture shock? This girl doesn't even know what a Porsche is. So she was intimidated with that. And then it turns out she got immediately on academic probation. And yet her schooling in Memphis was pretty good. But get her into the mainstream education, her comprehension was terrible and her reading skills and ability. So what Shane do with the coaches up there, they were not good. They were awesome. Tutors brought her through it, stayed on her, worked her through it because they had to get re-educated again. These kids are not on the same level at all, even though they got good grades from a poorer area. When you get into affluence, it's a different world altogether. And the rugby culture kept her alive, Kalissima. And that's just one of his success stories. He's got plenty of them. They go to all sorts of universities. If they're not cut out for school, he gets them to become EMTs, cops, fire department. It's unbelievable what I've seen him do. And the respect that he's gotten is incredible. He just went up last weekend and they're opening up. The city finally, after 12 years, came up with like $1.5 million to do a whole rugby pitch for him in a building. Because he had nothing. He was just stealing patches of grass to go play on and beg, borrow, and steal. And did that for years, and now they got their own home field, which is great. But he's done that. It was very successful. He's challenged USA Rugby a lot. And now he's doing urban league rugby. He's taking what he did in Memphis and bringing it nationally now. So he's getting into cities, Dallas, L.A., Washington, D.C., New York. He's going to start one here. So he's all over the country. He's got them people. He said Minnesota. They're popping up all over now. So he's on another mission. He's raising money now. It's all nonprofit to be able to sustain this, so he can get these teams going because they were dead broke when they start, and he raises money to make it happen.
Did Shane go into rugby sort of following his brother?
Well, they both played in New Jersey, as I mentioned, but he only played flag. So he came down. He was our scrum half for 4 years, and Ryan was a flanker. And Ryan was the captain for the first 2 years. Shane was the captain for the next 2 years because they were the only ones with really experience that I had. That
sounds a little bit of nepotism, because
Well, nepotism for a reason. Nepotism with justification.
Okay.
We delivered.
Yeah, for sure.
Let the record stand.
So this program went on very successful, as you mentioned. Who were your main opposition, like the strongest teams you would play?
During the time, the Northeast was always a big competitor. That's Bill Shelley. Then we had Sean Simon from Jupiter and Dave McFadden from Tampa. They were constantly in the mix. And there were some battles. That was great. It's so funny. And as a coach, I would always look up things and try to get innovative. And I brought new ideas to the kids, and they loved it because I would sell them on it, and they would buy into it. Our kids bought into the program. It was awesome. It was a mutual respect and admiration for the kids and the coaching staff. I had two guys that came out of nowhere when they heard we were doing this to help me out at the beginning, and they just showed up at practice. Their name Jeff Lovelace and Steve Dutton came out of nowhere, and they helped me out for a couple of years, and they were blessings. They came on their own when we went the first year. When we won the state championship, we went up to Georgia. They said, we're going to play in the dome. I got these kids all excited about playing in the dome. Well, you know what? You know what the dome is? Just a big open hole in the middle of the woods. I take a bus up there. Unbelievable. They go, oh, we're going to play in the dome. And then they saw what the dome was. I go, well, they said it was a dome. But that was part of the USA Rugby South Now competition. And these guys drive up on their own dime. I mean, you talk about rugby guys that love the game and love kids and give. These guys are awesome. I didn't have to ask them. They just volunteered it. And then when I need drivers, they always helped out.
Who else did you have throughout the years in the Naples Bears, like coaching and assisting?
Well, I used to get Larry Fox when he was done coaching the Hammerheads. He'd come over and help me with the Bears. And Paul Rickello was phenomenal. Paul was a pro rugby player from New Zealand and played for Fort Lauderdale a lot over there and with Kenny Simmons and all that. And they were awesome. They came and I couldn't get rid of them. And then Reed Jarvie, who I turned it over to for a year, and unfortunately he passed away. Larry's passed away. We've lost some good souls here. There's three coaches right there that passed away. Jerry Vendetti, who was a ref, passed away that was here. Tim O'Neill was another player. His son played, and he would always come and be a supportive father. He passed away. So we've had that, and sadly, I'll tell you, I don't know if other coaches have this experience, but I've lost like 4 kids as well that passed, sadly. Joey Anderson from a brain cancer that he had. He played for 2 years and then passed. And then we had Victor, I called him Beefy. He was nothing but a beef, and he played hooker for me. And he's another kid that went on to Virginia and started his own league and started being a coach. So this really took off from people to make other things happen in other parts of the country. So Beef did it, and he had a stroke and passed away, sadly. Then we had David Razor, a young, promising kid. I used to call him Dash because the kid was so fast. He was like a dart. He passed away. And then the last one was James Leppy. What a sweetheart of a kid that played for Gulf Coast football and came to us and played during our championship, well, a lot of championships, but James Leppy came and he passed away of leukemia. So very sad to lose kids that you coach. And I'm just thanking God that we're still here. I can't believe it.
You keep in touch with the kids?
Yeah, they yes, and likewise them to me. I just went to a kid that I wound up marrying too, and he's having a baby. He had a baby shower. I haven't seen him in a while. He's in the Space Force. So he's up in D.C. working in Space Force. So imagine that. And he's a space cadet, this kid. He's a great kid, Justin Carter.
Let me ask you also, because it's not only coaching that you need to put a team together. There's a lot of work to be done behind the scenes, right? Who was helping you doing that? Let's mention these people really because they are important to, because you can't do everything.
You know what?
Although sometimes
I called on.
Do.
Yes, I used to have a parent meeting, and I laid it on them, and I told them, I just told them I'm a benevolent dictator. This isn't football. This is a club sport, and I taught them the culture of the game, and I said everybody's got to contribute. When we have games, we host the other team. We got to have food for them. We got to have transportation. The first few years, we had to drive everywhere. Then I got smart and raised money every year, and I wound up, chartering buses to transport the kids, which is much safer, much better. Yeah. I could relax more. But that was a whole effort, and it was like a progression to do it. So, yeah, it was constant. I was always busy administrating it between the league, running the league, and dealing with all these coaches and trying to get schedules and get the refs on board and all that stuff. And then the challenges that come up between games and people, and then running my own team. It was like a full-time job.
Which you also had.
Yeah, well, I worked on my own in finance, yeah. So it just took a beating on me. My business took a beating too.
Yeah, I mean, probably people don't realize how much time and effort and many times money goes into getting these things started from you guys, right? It just, I think it gets a little bit unnoticed until you have to do it.
Right.
You also started this Florida League association or whatever name it had, which later went to be the Florida Youth Rugby Union. But at the beginning, it was more of a let's just do this. I'm the boss here. Uh, Tell me a little bit about the, what happened from that point of view. How was the relation with the Florida Rugby Union? Because you showed up to that AGM and asked what was going on, and I guess they started to pay attention, right?
Yes. When they saw it growing, everybody all of a sudden wanted to have something to do, or saying, "Oh, it was getting it going. That you had to get it there," and then people started rising. And that's an interesting question you asked, because I knew that we had to do that for just business sense and organization and bylaws and dealing with USA Rugby if we wanted to be sanctioned and recognized. And so then I went out and raised the money and started the nonprofit, obviously, and formed the league, and then made it official. And we had board elections and did everything officially and had an AGM ourselves every year. And that's what we did. And I kept doing that. I think I was the head of the league for 6 years, and then VP for 1 year, and then I was done with it at that time. And then still just was the head coach of the Naples Bears.
Referees. How was your relationship with the referees? And
Jerry Fitzpatrick, he was awesome. We didn't go without a controversy, so I don't mind saying that. In my later years, personalities were changing. I was looking to step away a little bit, and I forget the guy's name now, but he came here from England, and he wanted to do high-level rugby. And the truth is, on the side note, with Bill Martz and Donnie Stromanak and Jeff Oxenrider and myself, we always did the Florida Juice for an all-star team and to elevate and get kids more exposure. So that was always fun. And I can't remember the gent's name, so I apologize. I could get that out of the record somewhere. But anyway, he came over here and he kept coming to me and other people and saying, "Hey, can I do a super, camp?" I said, "Sure you can." And, let's see if all the teams respond. It turns out just a few of us really responded. I was bringing all of our Bears all the way across the state to go to his camps. And eventually I said to him, "Nah, I'm not going to do this anymore. It's really not working out. I don't see the benefit anymore, and it's time consuming and costly."
Maybe Matt Hayden. Matt Hayden.
No, that wasn't his name.
Okay.
No, if you said it, I'd get it. But in any case, then they're having a meeting. The Florida Union, who was changing personalities, and Martin Gardner, John Davenport, those guys had a meeting. I get a call the night before their meeting, and they said, "Can you come over?" It's like last minute. I went, it's tomorrow. You're asking me. So I had to change my whole schedule, and I drove over to Miami to get to their meeting. And there's that guy that was there. They were looking to try to get me to agree to absorb the youth league into the men's league, to the Florida Union. And I just asked them a question. I said, "Gentlemen, I'll always entertain thoughts, especially if it's good for rugby. No question about it. But please explain to me what's in it for us. And you're going to want all of our dues money and run that and administrate that." And it turns out one of our people that's part of the Hammerheads, Lisa O'Donnell, was their treasurer at the time. And they were giving money away, but they never gave any money to us. And I said, "Where's the benefit? I'm going to give you money. You don't even give money back to us now. So explain that to me. Make me see the day of light, and I'll listen to it. Otherwise, I'm not really interested." And they didn't like that. In fact, at one point, they even threatened that we wouldn't get refs anymore for games. And Jerry Fitzgerald wouldn't hear that at all. He was great. So I had a few arm wrestles with both John Davenport and Martin Gardner over the years, over a few things, and that was one of them. So we stayed independent, and I'm glad that it is, and let the youth, rugby deal with USA Rugby and work that out. And that's what's happened to this day.
You spoke about the Florida Juice. That's like a big chapter in Florida Rugby. Tell me a little about this program, how it started, and because it went for a few years, right? And
yes, we sure did.
And it was
a lot of years.
And when did it start? And what was the purpose? This was like to create the most competitive side possible in Florida to go and compete in these regional championships. I had a name, I can't remember now.
Yes, we traveled a lot. Off the top of my head, I remember traveling with the kids to Baltimore, Maryland for a year, about 2 or 3 years in a row to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We traveled a lot with them, and it was right. It was keeping the kids plugged in, playing rugby all season, looking for those that excelled to get up to higher levels as well.
This was like
And
postseason, right? After our
yes,
season.
it was after regular season.
Okay.
And the truth is the birthright of that really came out of Taravella, Bill Martz and Donnie and Jeff Oxenrider. They spearheaded it, and I supported it totally and became the fourth wheel.
So this was like a sort of a private initiative that they wanted to do. They put it together, and
Yeah, open to everybody. By the way,
yes, yes.
I mean we all, the whole team, we all had tryouts and show ups and all that. We always made it available to every team and encouraged it a lot. They were great about it. They were wonderful about how they organized all that. All kids got a good shake.
Any other memories of? There's always like some outstanding games you will never forget for whatever reason. Do any of those games come to mind?
I have a few actually. One of them was against you and your boys.
Oh, Miami Rugby, yes, 2012.
Yes, yeah, and
And let me just to put ourselves in in the historic context. This was, I think, 2012. 20 you played 2013, and then the following year it was the team like went back to Naples Hammerheads, right?
no, that didn't happen until like 2018.
Oh, okay,
I was still involved. Yeah, I was still involved up to 2014. In 2015, I
okay,
was not anymore.
okay,
And then Paul Ricella took over because Reed Jarvie had passed away, and Paul was the head coach there for a while, up into 2018. And then it went I think in 19 it changed to they changed it to the Southwest Hammerheads or something, Youth
okay.
Hammerheads.
So I guess Jupiter was not playing anymore in 2012.
Well, that's in 12 I think they were. Sean had some challenges, I know, and he moved to another town. He was a teacher in a school system.
Yeah.
He ran they were competitive.
Oh, absolutely. I remember the year before watching you guys play against Jupiter the final, because we Miami Rugby played the final of the second tier against your B side,
Right.
like first game, and then you guys played, but it was totally different level at the time for us. It was
Yep.
in 2012 we came very narrowly qualified for the final, and I think it was a really outstanding game. Yeah, for sure. What do
Yeah,
you
we
remember?
had a lot of fun. There was a lot of talent there. In all the years, we were blessed. These kids picked up on the game really well, and they excelled at it. In fact, just so everybody knows it, especially rugby coaches, you can win over these football coaches, and we did. Because I recruited from all the different schools now, just not Palmetto Ridge. I went to Gulf Coast High School, Naples High School. And again, the football coaches weren't always friendly, but like in Gulf Coast High School, I'll never forget it. His name is Frank Tudrin. They call the field now the Tudrin Field. He's passed away as well. I think throat cancer he had. But before he got sick and he was still the head coach there, he came up to our practice in rugby to seek us and say, you know what? I was wrong. Whatever you're doing, you're feeding these kids new vitamins. They're unbelievable. They're coming back like, aggressive people playing really good football. Keep doing it. I'm sending you more kids. I went, amen. That was great. Frank Trudgen did that. And so I forget what you asked me, but that was
No,
what you asked me now.
we were talking about outstanding games.
Oh,
That
well, yeah. And we were talking about Jupiter. You mentioned before that, and your game was big. I've had quite a few that Northeast was another game, that 1 point games. 1 point games. And this one championship with Northeast, I forget what the year it was. I'll tell you right now. Northeast. We killed them in 2006. That's where Bill Shelley won't want to talk about it.
because you have the scores on that. You have the scores on those plaques.
Yes.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. And then listen, when you win, you got to win big.
Well, those are not the good games. The good games are the ones you win by 1 point or you lose by one.
All right. Well, here
Those
you
are
go.
the
You
games.
asked me. So here I'm playing Bill Shelley again in 2000, and here, let me pick it out. I'll tell you in a second. Uh, let's see, Northeast, 2009. The score was the Bears 38, the Nomads 37. Boom.
Damn.
Now, how about that one? Now, we were killing them in the first half. There was, it just looked miserable. But our kids got real sloppy in the second half, and they came back like a banshee. And it always came down to, it was like kicks now all of a sudden. But we wound up winning that game by 1 point. So Bill Shelley, I'm sure he really doesn't like hearing this.
Well, that was
and then your game.
that was
Your game.
that was sort of similar because we were down 10 or 12 points with 5 minutes to go, something like that, and we scored twice and
three times you did. I'll never forget that.
Or 3 times, yeah, in like 10 minutes. And then the game was just depending on the kick, on the conversion of the last try, because the game was over. So, and we didn't make that kick, and you guys won. You know what my sense was at that moment? I saw you guys so happy to win, but like happiness out of relief of not losing, because it could have gone either way, of course.
Yeah, well, and now he's passed away now. Reed Jarvie, I was grooming him to take over the lead because as I was going to retire and get out, and I'll never forget it. We had you probably remember him, a big 8-man. He was from Naples High School.
Yeah, I remember that guy. For sure.
The kid could truck, but he only had 2 or 3 good long runs in him. So I actually said, Frank, take a knee. I wanted to go talk to him.
He scored one try. He did score one try in one of those runs for sure.
Yeah. So I said, take a knee. So he did. So I'm taking 2 minutes to go out and talk to them all and tell them what I wanted to do with strategy. As I'm doing that, Charlie, Reed, without talking to me, this never happened before in my whole career, was making substitutes now. And I'm walking off the field watching B players go on the field now, and we still got a whole mess of time to play you. I go, Reed, what'd you just do? He goes, well, I wanted to play the seniors. I go, Reed, not now. Timing is everything, and subs are crucial. No, those kids are real good. We need our A players out there for a little more time. But he made the changes. We couldn't fix it. And you guys took advantage of it, and boom, boom, boom. You had 3 quick scores right away and came back, and we said, oh, man, me and Paul on the sideline, we thought we were losing. And then that kick came up, and whoo. And that's where I goofed on your kids when you sent me a picture. I think that's almost the same time I was goofing on your kids about the honey bowl.
Tell me that story.
Oh, it was so funny. Ronnie Suarez and you were handling the bumblebees, we called you, for your shirts and everything. And I think it was Ronnie that might have coined the phrase, this is the honey bowl, because we were the Bears and you were the bees. So your kids were all in a circle, and I had to go handle a problem with a ref about a kid that we had that was a challenge, and I didn't want to do that, but on the way over, there it is, that's the picture. And your kids were all in a circle like that, so I went over and just went in the middle of them. I said, kids, your coaches are brilliant. I'll never forget telling them, they go, what? I go, they deem this game the honey bowl. Why? Because you're the bees and we're the Bears. But I told them, I go, listen, fellas, bees, first of all, bumblebees are aerodynamically not supposed to fly because they're too fat and chubby and got little wings. So when you pick one wing off, what happens? They can't fly. And you know what? Bees only get the sting once. And what happens? Then they die. Guess what? You only got one shot, so good luck, fella, because we're coming for the honey. And I'm pumping the fist. The kids were looking. They probably wanted to kill me. And I walk away. I was laughing my ass off.
I have a little story for that game, which is the following. We really liked to kick. We had a very good kicker, which in this case was my son. So I made sure that we played with the ball that we were used to. It was an Adidas ball. And I sort of just, casually walked onto the field and put the ball in the middle. So to make sure we would be playing with that ball, because,
sneaky guy.
Yeah. I have to confess that little. But yeah, that was a very nice game. A lot of people there.
Yeah.
Because we had that HPP thing, I think, before.
Yes. Yeah. The train for the juice. You know what? That's another thing, by the way. Over the years, just so you know this too, at Palmetto Ridge when we played in the home field there, we got as many as 300 people that are coming out to a game. That's a lot of people.
It is.
You know, in
It
the
is.
playoffs, we could even get up to maybe 500. It was really it was a lot of people. It was fun because the reputation was getting out and people wanted to come see. I'll never
Did
forget it. And then I remember one game, there's ladies standing over my shoulder to go, "We don't know what we just watched, but we loved it. We're coming back." Because they couldn't understand all the rules and everything, but they saw the action back and forth. That was against Bill Shelley, that game against Northeast. That was unbelievable.
did you ever have a game which like ended with some kind of really bad fights or indiscipline?
Not really.
No.
Not that I can recall. No, if our kids got scrappy, I took them out. Even their mouth. I'm not a Pollyanna, but I really pushed strong faith, and we prayed every game. Before I put a little sense of what I thought was normalcy in life, and said no cursing. And I'm not a Pollyanna, but I used to train them about manners. And the kids got it. They actually lived it. Now I had to clean it up every once in a while, obviously, because they would lose it. But mostly they maintained control. Every once in a while I had one player that was always the oddball out, but it was never that bad. I was blessed.
What do you see? Do you follow rugby at this point to any extent?
Yes, I do. I follow the Six Nations a lot, which is interesting, and I'm trying to follow this USA stuff. But is it going to even survive? I don't know. The MLR,
Well,
the way that's going, and I follow the Eagles all the time, and I used to follow both Malachi and Cam Dolan all the time. But
you did get to go to a Miami Sharks game, right? Because
yes,
I
yes. I was with him. In fact, I got to tell you, I have pictures of Cam and I outside my car because my license plate, by the way, you know what it says? Rugby.
really
Yeah,
your
I'm the only rugby
your
player
actual
in the state.
license plate.
Yes, sir.
Oh man, Ronnie
Yep.
has one that is similar, but I think it's rug and B as BEE.
Yes, ain't
Because
nothing like the real thing, baby.
because you took the it was taken by you.
Amen. That's right. And then a guy named Tom Gray.
Yeah,
He had his kids play,
yeah,
I
yeah.
think, for Taravella. They saw my plate and they ran out and got like rugby 9 or rugby 10. But
Uh,
I said, no, it's rugby. That's
Amazing.
funny. I've had that for 20 years now. Yeah, Cam Dolan and after that game in Miami, we went to my car and we're both kneeling down, pointing at my license plate.
I think
He liked it.
that was the first year or the second year. Do you remember
No, that was just last year when he was playing for.
this one? Yeah, but he came here
Florida.
twice. We had them twice.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah,
But I think it was his first game. Yeah. That's when I met his young wife now.
in the same way you went to the men's and say, hey, why are you guys not doing high school? Other people could have said, hey, why aren't you guys doing, youth?
Well, that's a funny thing you said that because when I was at the end of my term, that I was, because I was kind of getting burnt out too with all the stuff we were doing, and I think it was 2000 and I don't know, maybe 13. I can't remember the year, but anyway, I think it was Okapi and Weston. They were around now, and they were getting into the middle schools and the little kids,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they wanted to do tackle. And I was saying, as the head of no tackle. Let's do flag like in New Jersey because that's where I came from.
Okay.
And they go, no, come on, coach, will you please come over and look? So I did. I drove over and watched what they were doing, and I said, you know what? You guys are right. This is awesome because as long as they had, the exception, like the big kids
Yeah.
that were 20 or 30 pounds heavier than the little kids, they had to play up or not play against the little kids. But I clearly saw that a 8-year-old and an 8-year-old that's the same weight and same little height, they were not going to hurt each other. So I thought it was perfectly all right to start teaching. So then I said, that's great idea. Keep going. I think we should do that everywhere. So I just said, I cheerleaded it. But that's when those guys started over there with the youth.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
the middle schools. Yep.
What do you want and who do you want to thank for your rugby life? Put it some way. What has rugby
Um,
given to you and throughout the years?
that's a great question, Charlie. And I have to tell you that I
Because
think I started.
we have to agree that your life with rugby is one thing, and you can't just imagine it without it, right?
That's correct.
It,
That's correct.
it's just not
And
imaginable.
no, I was blown away at getting recruited as a young kid at 17 to play on the men's team, no less, in Massachusetts, and then saw how they incorporated and didn't treat me like a kid and really adopted me. And then to earn the right to be a starter for a men's team blew me away. And I'll never forget that I used to get these butterflies before games, and it wasn't because of the game. It was because I didn't want to let my fellow players down, ever.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to be the player that they expected me to be. And that just raised the bar all the time. And it made me show up at practice and play hard. You know, it just, and it goes in every aspect of your life from that point, you know, and your spiritual life, you know, your mental life, how you deal things with emotionally. Then my wife was great because she didn't even know anything about rugby until the things that I told you stories about my kids.
Yeah.
She always was a great cheerleader. And my boys, taking on to it so well and not liking it, loving it. And they both excelled. Like Ryan went on and played and was the captain of FSU for 3 years and played for 4 years with them and became a collegiate all-star too. So they both excel. And they loved it. And to this day, we play touch still right now. I'm playing touch rugby. Did last night. Boom.
Nice.
Yeah, I can still run, Charlie. I tell you.
Well, I can't. So
Yeah,
very
as long
good.
as I'm scoring, I can still cover the outside, and they can't get by me. I'm in. But it's been a blessing because, as you know, the camaraderie between players and the relationships that you get are mind-boggling, and you never forget them. And it's really been great. And I read an article a long time ago, and it said if you're ever going to hire anybody, hire a rugby player. And then it went through all the attributes as to why, because they're teamwork, committed, hardworking, want to perform, all the attributes you can think of. It was a great story. And then I read another story by a young lady that wrote it. She went out to a sevens tournament in California, and the title of the thing, which sucked me in, said "Rugby ought to be outlawed." I go, what? What is that about? So I'm reading it, and she says, I'd never been to a rugby game. And she went in, and she goes, I don't get it. Both sides are singing songs to each other. And then when somebody gets hurt, the other team helps them up, pats them on the butt. And by the way, those short shorts weren't so bad on those men either. So she kept going through a whole litany of examples of why she was intrigued with the game. And she goes, it ought to be outlawed because the ending was because it's addictive. I'm coming back for more. I thought that was a great way to do an article. But it sums it up. I've met some of the nicest people in the world that are rugby players, and the relationships you get, and I still have them to this day, by the way, with a lot of guys you're talking to.
Yeah.
The Bill Shelleys in life, the Dave McFadden's life. I talk to him, Bill Martz, and I talk to Donnie once in a while, and Ox. You see them, and when you see them, even if you haven't seen them in 5 years, it's like you saw them yesterday. And the camaraderie there is awesome, and they were all in. They were all, no matter what, if you have a difference of an opinion, we worked it out and got it done for the benefit of the kids and the league, and it always worked. That's pretty amazing. So it made a lot in my life. I would advise anybody to have a kid play rugby.
Definitely. Okay, thank you very much, Steve.
Did I do the job, Charlie?
You did great, man.
Okay.
You did great.